November 17th. It's 5:30 p.m. This meeting is being streamed live on Central Coast YouTube channel, and if anyone has public comments or questions, they can comment on the live stream, and the questions will be relayed to the board members and answered at the end of the meeting. We have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we have a roll call?
Rita Ackerman.
Here.
Jack Aiken. Here. Jennifer Post.
Here.
Ray Woodruff.
Present.
Kevin Battles.
Here.
Morris Burton.
Very good. Okay, this is the time for the Civil Service Rules public hearing.
I did
We
not
have-
print out new copies,
Okay.
Ernie, but I do have a couple if anybody needs one.
Well, we reviewed them last time. So.
Yeah.
And the only audience member that we have here
Is
our
our
participant.
Is our Civil Service Commission Chair.
Yes. So did we receive any comments whatsoever? And it was published on the website and so on?
Published on the website and then multiple times shared onto our Facebook page and community pages, so.
All right. Well, since we've had no comments and no one from the public here to speak at it, I guess we'll close the public hearing and consider adoption of the rules.
I move that we accept the rules as being reviewed.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to adopt the rules as they were presented. All those in favor say aye.
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 And I've got the copy for you to sign, Rita.
Okay. And so the motion carries. And now we have the approval of the minutes. These are the minutes from the regular session of October 20th and the special meeting from November 3rd. Has everyone had a chance to review them? Are there any additions, corrections? Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I can make a motion to approve the minutes.
And can I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve both sets of minutes as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion carries. Citizen participation, we have none. Okay, staff presentations.
So for the month of October, we ran 12 fires, 42 EMS calls, 7 vehicle crashes, no water rescues, 1 lift assist, and 4 other assists for a total of 66 emergencies. And in November, we've ran 9 fires, 23 EMS calls, 3 vehicle crashes, 3 water rescues, 3 lift assists, and 2 other assists for a total of 43 calls so far this month. And our annual total as of now is currently at 907 emergencies for this year.
Wow. Now, of those fires, how many were structure fires and how many were non-structure to you?
Most of those are going to be fires like smoke non-structure or possible grass fire, or the only fire we've had recently that was a structure fire was the Gibson Road fire.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, okay. And so then, maintenance.
So, I started our annual pump test. I scheduled all 3 districts to do a pump test. Engine 75 passed with flying colors. That's the one we paid to rebuild last year. So if you want to pass these down, that is a brand new one. The other one is an old one. As I've been digging into things,
They're completely different materials.
yeah, this is brand new. This is, of course, when engineers build something, then they realize, oh wait, this could be better.
Yeah.
Because if you look like right here,
Uh-huh,
see that?
yeah,
That's the way it leaks. So these
Yeah.
are the insides of valves.
okay.
this is one of the fittings on our tender, which yes, is currently offline. Unfortunately, we do not have a tender because of things like this that you can't see from the outside. You look, and it's great, but this right here,
Uh-huh, yeah.
you see through the threads right there. There was spitting water everywhere when we went through the test. It just blew out because you have to run these things up. The final test on these, they have to be run up to 250 volts and run for 20 minutes at 250 psi. That's when we start discovering stuff like that. You kind of see
Now, is there any way that that gets, that wouldn't get noticed during a regular maintenance regime, right?
Well, yeah, because when the fittings on there,
Or regimen, rather, not
yeah,
regime.
when I'm looking in the trucks,
Uh-huh,
the fittings
Yeah.
on there, that's all you see.
right.
You know, like right here, this is all we could see from inside the truck when we look. But then as soon as you run it up to 250 PSI, it just blew it out.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't, there's no way of knowing that.
There's a problem in placement or anything like
Right.
But then I guess that's why you have the test, right? I mean,
So, but in doing this, doing these tests, the downside of doing all this is that you discover a lot of things. So I want to put on the board's radar that the tender is going to have to be replaced here, next at least 5 to 8 years. We've got 2 engines that are going to have to be replaced in the next 5 to 8 years because of this, because of stuff we can't see that's rotting out. And it's not anybody's fault other than 30 years of not doing anything, not flowing water out of them, not, like now I go up to Five Rivers at least twice a month, all of the water gets flowed out. I flow water out of all of the valves. I exercise everything. I try to make sure that rusty water doesn't just sit and rot. But, you know, several years of not happening, we're gonna start running into this. And this is, so this year's pump test cost $6,500 because I have to replace all the valves in the new engine we just bought, unknown. They all leak because they're plastic. And I have to replace all the valves in the tender plus some fittings like this that are on order right now. And this stuff you can't buy here. The biggest you can buy on the Oregon coast is 2-inch. So when I go to, when something like this blows out, it's a 2-week process just to find a nipple like that. I'm going to talk with the city of Newport because they have a thread machine. I don't know how big it is. Most threaders, when I worked for the city of Newport, most threaders, they only go to 2-inch. You know, you can get the big 3-inch and 4-inch ones, but those are super expensive. And I can't remember what the city of Newport's is. If they have them, then I can buy a straight iron galvanized pipe. I can cut it my length, go up there, thread it myself because that's what I used to do, if they'll let me use it. So I'm hoping, and I don't think it'll be a problem if it's big enough. But most of the time, if something like this blows out, it's a 2 weeks wait. So that engine, that apparatus is out.
Have you tried talking with county shops?
And that's the other place I was gonna see if they have a threader this big. I looked online for threaders, like I said, decent price ones are $600 to $800, and those only go to 2 1/4, and this is 2 1/2. So you get into the 2 1/2, 3-inch, 4-inch, you're looking at $4,000 and $5,000 and $6,000 and $7,000 depending on the brand and size. So
Now, once these valves are replaced, what else, I mean,
the valves were so like in engine 72, the valves were the biggest problem. Last year, I'm guessing it wouldn't have passed pump test last year, in all fairness, only because the guy that was doing it last year left all the caps on everything. Whereas this guy, me and Chief even sat in the office, we started pulling the NFPA code up because not just us, Zero-Rock and Yachts were also having, failures. And I'm like, what is this guy doing different? So we started going through, what he was doing different was actually following the pump test guidelines to the letter. All the caps were coming off of everything, he was vacuum testing things. That's where we end up with this, where and it's a good test, because then you find your leaky valves. That's the whole idea behind it. You find those valves that are leaking. If you have caps on everything, you're not gonna find anything.
Yeah, you're testing flow.
You're testing, yeah, and then you go into a flow test, and there's 3 different levels of that. So all of the engines, with the exception of a couple of them, not ours, passed all their flow tests, but they didn't pass their leak down tests. So they're not like major out of service, except for the tender. But engine 74, I just went through this with 74 out in Five Rivers last year. And I'm afraid that I haven't had it pump tested yet. So I'm thinking when I bring it down, we're gonna end up with that too. Although I've been keeping the water clear in it, it's not gonna stop what's already started inside. So, that one may have to, be
So I
taken
guess
out
what
of
my
service.
question is though, is if, you know, if we go through and replace the valves,
Then it's plumbing.
with the, okay. the
Yeah, this
plumbing.
is plumbing. So the valves, like that valve right there is $180 for the kit to rebuild it. Because you don't have to replace the housing and everything, it's just the seals and O-rings and stuff in it. Takes about 30 minutes per valve to tear it all apart, clean it all up. I've got about 8 of them if you want to see what a brand new one looks like rebuilt out in the shop right now. But the biggest problem we're gonna run into now is I'll be able to get like tender to pass the pump test if everything holds inside. This is where I say 5 to 8 years, we need to start thinking about not necessarily brand new stuff, but new work, not 20-year, not 10-year-old stuff. Or even if it's 10 or 20 years old, maybe something on a front line, always used engine, you know, something like
And probably a good idea to have it go through a pump test before we buy it.
a proper pump test. Well, and Engine 72 did. I
Yeah.
have its pump test from Humboldt Bay before we brought it up. But there again, did they follow the NFPA
Right.
guideline to a T? And I learned a lot this, because I honestly walked over to James and said, dude, what's going on here? Because you're failing all of us, and this is ridiculous. And he walked me through the test, word for word, and we went, even looked it up on the NFPA site, and yeah. But this is what we're gonna run into and now, is that the trucks have sat for so long, you can't tell that anything's wrong with them by just opening an compartment, running valves, you can't tell anything's wrong. They're gonna start blowing this plumbing apart. And that's what engine 74 has, and now Tender's starting to do, is blow the plumbing apart.
Is there any way you can get that kind of, instead of being galvanized, can you get that replaced in stainless?
You can, except for
It's more expensive, but it will last a whole lot longer.
that 9-inch nipple right there, I bought for, it's on its way, with shipping was $40. I looked at stainless and I've looked at aluminum. Stainless for this 9-inch nipple is $200 without shipping. So it's a lot different.
200 versus what?
$40 with shipping.
Yeah.
So that's the problem, is that
Well, it's,
and honestly, this thing lasted, that truck is more than 20 years old. So this piece of galvanized lasted a long time. But there's this piece of galvanized all throughout the whole truck. So, and it's anywhere from your close nipples to your 9-10 inch
Yeah, I mean,
nipples.
you're talking about a truck that's hitting its 30-year birthday this year.
Yeah, so replacing it with stainless honestly would just be throwing good money after bad.
Yeah.
'Cause
in
that-
this
Yeah, I mean,
particular,
it's just-
in this case, I agree with you, but I'm just thinking for future vehicles that we're buying that are obviously used.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that new ball valve was made out of stainless.
Right.
You know, they learned their lesson.
Mhm.
And if our, that's a result of sitting, like you said,
Yeah.
stainless.
So the
maybe
Rosen,
in the future,
the Rosenbauer truck that we've got in the AFG grant is all stainless plumbing throughout the entire inside of it. Because yes, they've learned their lesson.
yeah.
But I just want to put that on the board's radar. We're, as an association, stepping out of this role and into the association, we're going to look for, there's grants, and we can actually apply, we learn for that AFG grant as well, as an association, and the district can. So we're going to try to find grant money on the association side. I'm going to work with Chief, and we'll try to find, and even then, with the whole Gomberg thing, this is something we can write up with that. We're a district that, yes, we've got a lot of deferred maintenance that's now gonna start showing its ugly head. And if we're gonna maintain our ISO rating, we're gonna have to start looking at getting this stuff replaced. And it's not just a nipple, it's a whole truck.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah,
Do inside those, the compartmentalized parts
Yeah.
what's passing the water.
Mhm.
Are there zincs in there? Is there zinc in there that's sacrificial metal that rots away before it attacks?
Not on all of them.
Galvanized?
Yeah, not in all the trucks. I know some of them, I know what you're talking about. It's like the thing on the boat motors, basically.
Yeah.
So your stuff, but yeah,
Boats
this one
have-
doesn't, this particular doesn't have it, this truck, so yeah. Might be something we can look into, maybe adding to slow the process, yeah, slow the process
And you
down.
just put it on your maintenance schedule to replace this.
Mhm.
Or look at it.
I'd have to look at the NFPA pump guidelines and see if that's something that's allowed for a rotting, you know. I don't know if that's something that you put in there, if that's why some of these trucks don't, or if they do. So, but it's something to look at. Anyhow, I am gonna work with Chief to try to find grants, but in coming budget years, we need to start looking at trying to put money away and figure out how to put some money away to spend like we did with Engine 72, 100 and a half, you know, to get a new rig and start getting some of these things replaced, because otherwise we're gonna start jeopardizing our ISO rating, even though, yes, some of these trucks just sit and not get used a lot. It's still, that's what's getting our good rating and getting our taxpayers a good insurance rating, which.
Well, and having a regular maintenance schedule
Yeah.
and so on, certainly.
And that's gonna help too, because like I said, I go out and I clear the water out of these things all the time now.
So,
Yeah.
so if you pull out the operations resort report that's in your binder on page 21, there's a table for
Right after
apparatus
finance
status.
sections.
Hmm?
In your binder, it's right after finance tab.
Yeah,
Which page, 20?
page 21. Should be a table with an orange border.
Yeah,
So this is our fleet, okay? Every vehicle we have in the district, right here. Most places, cities, so for like Salem, 10 years they rotate their vehicles out, okay? Rural areas, you're looking more towards 15 and 20. And so that's what I based ours off of, is the rural standard for 15 and 20. And in some cases, even there's a 25 in there too. So when you look at this list, the vehicles marked in red are vehicles that are excessively past their lifetime, or in the boat's case, you know, that one just passed a couple years ago. But when you look at the other ones, 2009 was the 20-year mark, 2012, 2011 were the 20-year mark. These are the trucks that we're having problems with. It's not just that, you know, they sit there and they don't get used that much. It's the fact that these are 30, almost 40 in some cases year-old fire trucks
Yeah.
that are not designed to be in circuit that long. And
well, and
so,
even finding parts for them is getting more difficult.
well, so that's the problem with the Type 1 International, the 1989 International, is that, yeah, we can't find parts for that now. So, you know, Eric is right, we need to start figuring out how we're going to rotate some of these vehicles out. And yes, it doesn't need to be with a brand spanking new truck so much as a newer truck that's in better shape. But every time we buy a used truck, we're also taking on the fact that its lifetime is already partially spent. You know, when we bought the 09 Spartan, that's, you know, its immediate lifetime would be for 2039. So it gave us quite a bit of time still before that truck is going to be done with its lifetime. But, you know, we're dealing with some trucks on here that, quite honestly, we could donate to the museum
Yeah.
because they're that old. And they're just, they don't make them like that anymore. And so now people look at those as more like they're crossing the line into being something to show as traditional history or parade pieces, you know? And so, and yes, these vehicles, they sit upriver and they don't do much. but hold our ISO rating, to be honest, if I'm being 100% honest about it. But the ISO rating is very important.
Right, and we still
Yeah.
want them to work when we do
Well,
have to call.
and they have to work, because I'm not gonna lie about it when
Right.
the ISO rep
Yeah.
comes here. I'm not gonna tell them that they work and they don't work.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
you know, so it's just something to keep an eye on. We're doing the maintenance that we can to continue to push their lifetime as far as we possibly can. But it eventually is gonna get to a point where they're gonna have to go down the road, and something else is gonna have to take their place. So, and that's why we put it on here, is so that people would understand that, you know, when we ask for capital in bonds especially, and we're replacing trucks, that doesn't cover paper, toilet paper, cleaning supplies. That capital money goes to capital property.
Yep.
And so fire trucks, buildings, that's pretty much it. You can't take that money and transfer it over and then dump it into personnel services or wherever we want to put it. So, and that's going to be part of the education that this report is going to hopefully provide. So,
Which
anyway.
you did a good job on.
Yeah, it's on our
Are there still AFG grants available for endings?
Our AFG grant for our new tender is still out there. They're still not, just haven't finished all their awards yet. And I'll talk about safer when we get to my report, so, yeah. But anyway, just wanted to kind of add my 2 cents.
No, that was perfect, bring that up. I forgot you had that in there.
75's in red, but it's the one that passed in flying colors.
Yeah,
It's only in red because of its age.
Age,
yeah.
right.
And 75 is the one we spent quite a bit of money on last year and rebuilt everything in it. It's got a brand new transmission in it, brakes all the way through, all new valve, being all new arms.
That's
all sorts of stuff.
2
So,
years ago.
or 2 years.
It's
was
been
it?
2 years,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Okay, well, anyway,
Yeah.
that's why that one passed. It's all basically brand new on the guts, but there again, there's still that plumbing thing, so. Yep, that's all I have right for me.
Wendy?
So, I know Brett was gonna bring it up, and I was gonna bring it up, the Oregon Growth Savings Plan. We had, a representative come sit and do a meeting with us and discuss how that works and, what it's about, and, so it's basically, and Rita probably knows, but for those that don't, it's a 457 plan that is just for government. And I'll let Brett kind of take over on kind of the structure and how it works, and, because he probably honestly knows more than I do.
Yeah, it's just it's a deferred compensation plan that the employee would participate in, not us, the district, at this time, anyway, unless you decide. So it would just be on them. So there's no cost to the district to do that. And I think there were 5 or 6 different categories that you could invest in. It sounded like a pretty good deal. It's far more robust than the Oregon Savings Plan, which is a raw sort of compensation. So it looked like it was a pretty good deal, pretty good investment. And the fees are really reasonable, very, very reasonable. The majority of those are under 0.5%.
And this would be,
Employee.
this would be something that we would offer to the employees, but we don't have to,
Match.
we don't have to
That's
match
right,
or.
that's right. There's no cost to the
Yeah.
employer unless you decided to.
Now, do you have to have a set number of employees participating in order for the?
There was no mention of a number.
Yeah.
You know, usually it's like 2, but not in this case. This gentleman was pretty knowledgeable. Well, he knew his stuff, so I'm sure he would have mentioned it had he done it. So, and then it's elective. I mean, the employee decides if they want to contribute or not. They don't have to. So.
There is
The only thing, we have one,
there is a resolution that has to be done in order to do
yeah, there'll
it.
be a resolution that would need to be done. And then there's that's actually part of the package that they brought, which is unusual. And there's one piece of the application that has to be signed by the board chair or the secretary. And the
Oh,
rest
so
of
this is
the-
actually through PERS.
Yeah.
So it's an additional,
And what's nice too is, like, Chief already has it, so he can transfer, but it's through North Lincoln. So once it's set up, then they can basically transfer his account from North Lincoln
Right.
to us. Anybody who has like a 401k or an traditional IRA, they can roll it over into it if they want, and stuff. And there's no early retirement penalty from the notes I took. There's no early retirement tax penalty. And then if any of them, because right now we have the 457 through AIG.
AIG Valley.
Yeah. They can keep that if they want. They can do both. So they've also offered to come in and do a workshop with the employees and do a presentation to kind of just go over it with everyone on how it works and everything like that. So I had the employee side of the packet. I don't have the other side
Right.
with the resolution.
Sounds like a real good deal for you. We would collect the money and then
Right.
forward it on.
Right, yeah. Part of the deal.
Is that pre-tax?
Yes.
Yes, pre-tax.
Mhm.
You need direction from us?
Can we make a motion on that?
Well, you know, we can make a motion to proceed with,
Just table it for right now.
mhm.
Just table it for right now. Get through your executive session
Yeah.
first.
I would say we just kind of, I mean, we could say, go ahead and pursue that and get the resolution, and then we can vote on the resolution
Yeah,
once we have the
yeah.
resolution. There's nothing we can do right now because we don't have
Right,
the
we can't
resolution,
really,
so.
we can't, yeah, right. So that works just as well.
Yeah, if you just want to, just say to go make the resolution and bring it back to you, then yeah.
Bring it back to the December meeting and,
Yeah.
yeah,
The target date was for January 1st.
right, yeah, so December's
What we're
fine.
looking at.
Yeah, so December's fine.
Yep.
Is that a consensus of the board?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Okay, we
Anything
have
else on
a volunteer report.
Not really much, well, I guess there is more on the volunteer report. So tomorrow night is our last bingo of the year. We're taking a break in December because we got too many other things going on. We did participate in Trunk or Treat. There was, how many did I say? 2,
Something, kids.
no, that was the adults.
What was that? It was
There was
300.
311 kids, 277 adults that came through Trunk or
Wow.
Treat. Sparky made an appearance. We now have our own Sparky costume, other than it looks a little small, so I'm not gonna get stuck wearing it. I will find somebody else. We have, coming up, we have Operation Santa on the 2nd and 3rd of December. We have the Christmas Light Parade with Beachcombers on the 16th, and then we are doing a holiday open house, Pictures with Santa, kind of in conjunction with Beachcombers, on the 18th. So we'll do our open house like we did last year, but a group from one of the churches is gonna actually come and do gingerbread cookie decorating with kids, and then the school may be possibly joining in with us on doing something at the same time. So that'll be a busy month, so no bingo that month. So we'll be giving away extra raffle passes tomorrow night. So buy extra tickets. Is there anything else, Eric?
No, I can't think of it, and other than, I just want everyone to know that like Operation Santa benefits South Lincoln Resources, it's actually their event. So, and then Beachcombers, of course, handles the parade.
Right.
So,
And like I had said earlier, they just need to check with the city and make sure they get
proper
proper
stuff.
permits.
Yeah. I'll talk to you about that. We need to talk to Rick.
Don't be
We are-
driving around with kids on trailers.
We are participants
We are
in these
participants.
events, not the operators of these events.
Well, the city's got a new kind of permitting process so that we're aware when the city is aware when, you know, these events are happening and so on. It doesn't cost anything, it's just, you know, kind of a notification process, if you will. I don't see anyone for a union report.
Nope.
No,
Um, Brett, you're up.
At the end of October, the district had $355,553 on hand in the reserve accounts in the general fund. So we made it just fine until November. This year, the levy taxes are coming in early. It seems like they're a couple weeks early. Through to today, or through the 18th, $562,714. So they've really sped up their process. So that's nice.
Well, I think a lot of people like to pay early so that they don't have to pay the penalties too.
Yeah, perhaps that has something to do with it. Maybe they have the money this year.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
It's interesting because we were concerned with the fallout from the COVID sessions that we had, when that was going to affect, if it did affect, any of the taxes, but so far it doesn't seem like it's affected
I
at
think,
all.
I think a lot of people are going to the impound account, so the escrows and mortgage companies are paying them up ahead. Just like when we
So
just
much
bought our
easier.
house, it's just,
Carry along.
yeah, they just be done with it.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So we did book 81,719 of the levy taxes in the month of October, but we didn't receive that money until the first week in November. Let's see, the prior levy funds, $8,719. So I think that what people had owed in years prior is actually coming down. Like they're getting caught up or something. And personnel services, $266,039. And that doesn't include in the Oregon State Fire Marshal grant funds paid out to the employees for labor. Legal services, $128 a month, so we haven't really had much. Not really a whole lot going on. LTIP is earning 2.2%.
Yeah, so not as good as I would think it would be.
I wanted to ask if the district would be interested in maybe putting some money in some short duration CDs. Edward Jones is paying not them, through one of the banks that they work with, 3.85% for 3 months.
Does that cover public funds? Because sometimes,
I don't know the answer to that.
yeah, 'cause sometimes I know public funds.
I don't think so, because those are usually national banks.
Yeah, I mean, I know with us, public funds falls under a whole different realm of ballgames,
Yeah,
basically.
that's a good question, I don't know the answer. I know Oregon Coast Bank is covered.
Yeah. Well, it's just not like covered, they just offer a different rate to like public funds, so
Could be.
they'll offer a lower rate to,
I didn't ask this, this just
Yeah.
came through for other reasons.
I might look around too, I mean, especially at 2.2, I wasn't super impressed at 2.2.
1% of $700,000 multiplied by 12, that's quite a lot of money.
Yeah. Adds up
Quite a
to
difference if we get another 1%. Two out of it.
Yeah.
Vehicle fuel keeps climbing, of course. $7,104 through the end of October. Vehicle repair, $7,814. Engine ambulance equipment, we haven't really spent a lot of that. $2,947.
So how much did we have budgeted for fuel?
For fuel, we had 17,000. So we are at 42% for the year, 41.79, and we should be at 33.33 to the end of October,
Yeah.
1/3 of the year. So it's run ahead by about 8%.
Yeah.
That's really all I have there.
And yeah, Kevin, if you want to look into the rates, that would be,
I'll look around, see if I can find something better, I mean, who knows where we're gonna go right now.
yeah.
Edward Jones is the best.
Yeah.
Everybody else is pretty good. It depends, on the most of them are 7 months, and they're paying 2.2 to 2.5.
Yeah, Edward Jones just ends up shopping all of them around for
Yeah, they've got the whole
the
country.
whole, every bank, yeah.
Okay, can we need a motion to accept the financial report and approve paying the bills?
I'll make a motion to approve the financials as presented.
It's been moved and seconded to approve. All those in favor?
Aye. Make a motion to pay the bills.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pay the bills. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Okay, so, we have any correspondence?
No, we've had a couple letters come in requesting patches. That's about it.
Okay. Do we have a supply of patches that we can, okay.
Yeah, the one that I'm working on, they actually like want, they're doing some project, so they actually have like a sheet they want me to send back with it, with like details of history and stuff like that. So that one's actually kind of fun, so I'll get that one sent off to them.
Okay. So under old business, we have the annual report approval and request for printing.
Yeah, so the only feedback for corrections I got was the grammar corrections that you gave me, which were 90% commas that were missing. So, you guys have the draft that I gave you. Basically what I'm looking for is, it's ready to go, the finalized copy is ready to go. All the corrections have been made that have been submitted to me. So what I'm looking for is twofold, is one, do I have approval to release it to the public? And then two, I'd like to get 150 booklet copies made to be able to hand out at events, hard copies to hand out at events, and to hand out to some of the local businesses and stuff. Because I think this is good public education on the district's, not just our capabilities, but where we're at with things and where we're going. So the 150 copies through Quality Printing is $664. So $665 will change.
How does the board feel?
Good with it?
I move that we accept the annual report and allow the fire chief to obtain and pay for the appropriate amount of copies needed.
I'll second.
So it's been moved and seconded to approve the report and let Jamie get them printed. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay. And under new business, we have discussion on holding December meeting.
You asked me to put that on there.
Rita looks around as if she's waiting somebody else to take the bullet out.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to put it on the agenda, is because, unless we have something major come up, in which case we can convene an emergency meeting if necessary. December is usually a pretty busy month with holiday events and that sort of thing. Plus, it takes time for staff to put together a packet and so on too, and we've got a lot of other events going on. So I wondered how the board would feel about holding a meeting in January that would cover December and January.
Yeah. As long as, unless something comes up emergency, relative
Right.
to the grant process for the
Yeah.
seismic grant, or,
If something comes up, you can always just call a special meeting based off everybody's schedules. I don't anticipate anything coming up. We didn't have a December meeting last year because of the same reasons. It's just there's a lot of people doing travel and holidays and family and, so.
Events.
Yeah.
And we'll need a motion to approve the bills for December, correct?
But, I think that as long as they're the normal operational bills, we can hold anything that's,
We'll hold anything that's
that could
outside of
probably-
utilities
yeah.
and,
Mhm.
you know, fuel.
Paychecks and that sort of thing.
Yeah,
Well, I don't think we want to hold all the paychecks until January.
no,
Uh,
no.
But, you know, otherwise, I think it should be fine. And the sound of things, consensus of the board is favorable to having the, you know, not having a meeting in December, and we'll just go ahead and have one in January. Okay. Is there any other new business, any other thing?
Nope.
Okay. We have the chief's report.
Okay, I'm gonna go really quick because we have the executive session and there's a lot of info in the executive session. So, working really closely with McKinsey now that we're on the final phase of the deadline for the seismic. I've got a spreadsheet on my computer right now that I'm going through to give them supplemental information on what this building provides. And one of the examples is, the other day I had the crew help me go through and we had to value the apparatus and tools. So if the building was destroyed with the apparatus in it, what would it cost to replace all the apparatus and tools? And that's about $1.78 million to replace what's just sitting in the bay here. So when you think about how important it is that this building protects that stuff, that's a lot of money in apparatus and equipment. So, and that's about 66% of the value for the replacement value of the building that they're giving me on that spreadsheet. And that's what they're looking for, is what percent of value does the building protect versus the building itself. And so if I'm reading the spreadsheet correctly, and Kathy seems to think I am, currently with the seismic, their forecasted numbers, the max on the seismic is 2.5 million, and we're at 2.416 at this time. So much higher that we're going to be able to utilize versus last year when we were looking at the other drawing, and we were only going to be able to utilize 853,000 of the
Right.
seismic.
Yeah.
So now we're almost sitting on the cusp of being maxed out on the seismic right now. So, so that's coming along really good. Other grants, I talked to our federal rep for FEMA on Monday, and she was able to pull our application and see what processes it had gone through. And she told me that based off the processes that it had gone through, it's unlikely we're gonna get our SAFER grant. And after I got through my irritated, frustrated moment, I asked why, and it came down to the fact that we have too low of call volume and too low of population for the demographics they were looking for. So, and I didn't print it out, I was gonna print it out, but if you go to the SAFER awards page, there are 7 awards that have been given to Oregon. Out of the 7, 6 of them are large municipalities like Portland Fire, Albany Fire, Marion County #1, Jackson County 3, Crooked River Ranch, which is actually a resort, privatized fire, if you will. And then the only one that had a rural standing to it, if you will, was Keno, which is actually still a pretty large fire district. These are all fire agencies that have multiple paid staff crews, multiple engines running the calls. I, for the life of me, cannot understand why money is going to agencies for federal aid that have numerous staffing above agencies that are requesting it to maintain a minimum staffing level at best.
That doesn't seem right.
So we're kind of, for lack of better terms, in the hurt feelings phase with this and trying to understand kind of where we want to go with this. One is we're not going to do anything until we get the actual official notification from FEMA directly. But 2, if we get the notification that, hey, they handed out millions of dollars to municipalities that had multiple crews and everything, do we want to say something about that? Do we want to say something along the lines that if they had given out awards to districts like ours at the amount that we were asking for, they could have quadrupled their awards for
Yeah,
Oregon?
right.
You know, what do we want to say and how do we want to say it? And, you know, is there a chance that if we say something, are we burning a bridge with FEMA at the same time? You know, that's kind of where we're at right now. There's nothing to do right now other than to just wait and see if her assumption, if you will, or forecast comes true. But considering that, you know, this isn't just our local state rep, this was our federal rep, I'm gonna guess that her knowledge of the system is probably higher, and the reason she's giving out that information is she's fairly confident with the information. So,
Well, if nothing else, you know, I think that's something that should be talked about at the conference, the, you know, SDAO conference.
yeah, I mean,
Because, I mean, it's.
lots of options for that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
for me, it's really concerning to see federal dollars going to agencies that aren't in, number one, any severely distressed tract, number one, and two, agencies that have multiple paid crews responding to that one single alarm. I mean, we're talking about a system here where we're sending a vehicle with 2 people to the call and hoping that volunteers, and if it's at night, paid staff come back in
Right.
on their time off to try to help build up our manpower, if you will, for those calls. So for me, to give $2.5 million to Portland Fire versus giving 6 awards to rural agencies to keep their staffing, it didn't make sense.
Right.
So,
Yeah, well, you know, I know that the whole system is not necessarily
and we do-
designed to be fair. I don't know that we want to get, you know, go off on our own and make a
right.
big stink about it, but,
If we did get a denial, I suggested that we go and reach out to all the other rural districts that got
Yeah,
denied,
yeah,
not just
yeah.
us, but all across Oregon. And us get together, all of us get together through single points of contact, and then, yeah, make a stink at the FEMA level, but it wouldn't be just us doing it. It
yeah,
would be,
no, we don't want to.
yeah, because we don't, because that would burn a bridge. If we just started pitching a fit ourselves, that would burn
Yeah,
a bridge.
right.
But if you got 20 other agencies going at, you know, on a national level saying, hey, look, this is ridiculous, that maybe FEMA will stand up and pay attention a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, and then the second approach to that is we have a new representative of District 4 at the federal level that we go introduce ourselves to, along with the other districts within this federal district that also were denied, and say,
Yeah,
you know, we have everything I've read in the paper is, they want to push for affordable housing. They want to, there's all of these things. So there's a lot of infrastructure that goes in behind all of that, and we are a major part of that. And I think that just sort of gets overlooked. And,
I just went through.
come down and look and see how we actually are having to do business on a day-to-day basis.
I just
Yeah.
went through the NFPA Public Information Officer course so that it's actually listed. And it was very comprehensive, and it was I learned a lot. And one of the things it talked about, and that I'm going to start doing for our district, is reaching out to representatives at the federal level, at the state level, because that was one of the things that the PIO is supposed to do, make those networks so that and it's not just for the emergencies, it's for the day-to-day, because once you have that buddy over here or that contact over here, you can call them up and say, hey, remember me, we met at this conference, and meeting with, like, the mayor, and meeting with the commissioners on a regular basis, keeping those channels open to us on a regular basis. That's what one of the many things I learned is that we really got to have those channels open on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So,
So, a little bit of bitter news, but, it's not official yet, and
Right.
it doesn't mean that that's exactly what's gonna happen either. But it wasn't the news I was hoping to hear. So, she also admitted to me that while they're still trying to work through their processes, they're probably not gonna be done with awards till the end of the year. Which is gonna be interesting because their fiscal year 22 applications open up in the beginning of the year. So people are gonna be still waiting to hear whether they got their last year's awards while trying to decide whether to apply for next year's awards.
well, I'd say
So-
that, regardless, we should probably prepare to apply.
Well, so that I guess the issue would be, so I applied under AFG for a tender. if we got the tender this year, I would apply again next year, even though we just got an award, I'm still gonna try, and I would apply for an engine next year. But if I don't get the tender this year, then next year I'm gonna wanna apply for the tender again to try to get a tender, you know? So it's making it where I've gotta decide, do I repeat my request? Because I don't know if I'm gonna get the one from this year or not.
Yeah.
Or do I do a new request and still wait and hope on this, the one from before? So, and right now, given, you know, after Eric's spiel, I would go for the tender again, because we
Yeah.
need to get a tender in.
Well, like I said, we'll work with you. I want to work, especially me and Wendy want to work with you on the AFG and how you did that, so, but apply for it, not as a district, but as the volunteer association. Because
Yeah.
then we're going after two different apparatus at the same time,
Yeah,
kind of in conjunction.
yeah. And there's other ones, I mean, I just got a notification.
Oh, yeah, well, I thought we were talking about the SAFER grant, which,
Yeah.
you know,
So Safer, AFG, and the fire prevention are all FEMA, and they're all in the same boat.
oh, they're all, okay.
Yep.
That part just didn't. really-
All three of them. Matter of fact, they still haven't awarded anything for prevention yet for Oregon. So, we watch it literally almost every day. It's kind of become a new routine. You come in, grab a
Yeah.
cup of coffee, sit down at a computer, log into to FEMA, see
Scroll
if there's
down to
anything
W.
new. Yeah. Yeah, we've gotten quite proficient at it, actually.
Yeah.
So, but,
Meanwhile, Oregon burns up.
yeah. The OSFM Safer Grant is ready to go. I just have to hit the send button. I've got it all written up. All the narratives are written up. I've just been waiting as long as I can to find out if we get the FEMA Safer or not. So I'll probably send that off next week to
Here again,
OSFM.
you might as well, I mean,
Doesn't hurt to try.
right.
So, automatic aid agreement. So, we signed ours last week. Yahat signed the agreement on Monday at their board meeting. And, today, was it today? Today, let's just say last night for safety's sake, I got an email from Will, saying that he was going to direct his board to, table it for another month to go and review it some more, because he's still concerned with the language in section 8, even after we change section 8 to his suggested terms. So I talked to Frankie and Shelby this morning. We're all in consensus. We're just give them the month and wait and see what comes out of it.
Mhm.
So,
Well, I mean, it doesn't, it's still gonna be operations as usual, you know, procedures as usual.
right.
So it's not really going to impact our daily response, if you will.
No, that's why there's really no harm in just waiting.
Right. Yeah,
So,
okay.
other than that, the building purchase, so I met with Dan earlier today, and we're going to Western Title. He's gonna schedule the appointment. So the one thing I do need from the board is once we are set to go with Western Title, they'll need and I believe it's gotta be a cashier's check for the closing costs. The closing costs, he's thinking are gonna be for our portion, our half of it, not the city's half, but our half, is gonna probably be somewhere around 1,200. So I figured to be safe, especially since we're not having this December meeting, even though we'll probably do this before the meeting would happen. I'm looking for board approval to obtain, once we get the amount, up to $5,000 in a cashier's check from Bank,
Oregon Coast Bank.
Oregon Coast Bank, thank you, for the closing costs, because that'll have to be, I need that approval from
Up
you
to
guys. do that.
5,000?
Well, it'll be whatever the cost is, as long as it's under 5,000.
Right,
So, yeah. Like I said, he's assuming it's gonna be somewhere around 1,200. So,
right, yeah. I don't think it's gonna be very complicated.
no.
Thoughts?
Yeah, or whatever. If you find out the amount, I can run over and wire the funds.
I'll have to go through you, and Brett will be involved, and it's not gonna be like a me just going over there by myself, so.
All right, yeah, and I could stop by the the Newport branch and just grab the check and drop it off at Western, because they're gonna want it 24 hours ahead of time. They don't take it the same day, so,
Yeah.
for closing. So,
Yeah.
just let me know the amount and I'll run down and grab a cashier's check and run it over to Western.
Yeah, does anybody want to make a motion for that?
We probably should,
Yes.
in an amount not to exceed 5,000.
I second that. Did you make the motion?
I guess I made it.
You made the motion.
I mean, I can make a motion. Yeah. Authorize the chief to
Coordinate with
coordinate with the treasurer to obtain a check for the closing costs for the fire building in an amount not to exceed $5,000. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
That's it?
Okay. And I don't really have anything for a president's report.
Yeah, I would say.
So, at this time, we're going to go into executive session pursuant to ORS 1926602D to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to carry on labor negotiations.
So, before you go fully into executive session, we're obviously gonna step out, I'm gonna shut the recording off, but I have a feeling what's gonna happen is gonna take a little bit, and that's gonna lock up before I can hit resume. So, for public reasons, there are no questions right now from the public. If there is in the future, I'll bring them or send them if there's something of detrimental value, or I'll just answer it myself. But as of right now, there's no viewing thing, so I'm just gonna shut the live feed off, and then you guys
The rest
can,
of it will
because
be
then when you
minutes.
guys come back in, there's just, that little bit will have to be on. So, we'll do this.
Okay, all right. Sounds good?
Then he just wants to go home too. He's gotta go play with his dog.